All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Mary Ann LeBlanc Cummings. I am a member of Westwood Select Board and a co-chair of the Canton Street Working Group, along with Steve Rafsky to my right. And I will now call this meeting of the Canton Street Working Group to order. And I will start by calling the roll. Please indicate if you are present. Steve Rafsky.
Here.
Grace Doshi.
Here.
Amy Gold-Yale.
Here.
Ed Driscoll.
Here.
Tom McShane.
Present.
Ellen Rawlings.
Present.
Maureen White.
Present.
Gary Yasalian.
Present.
Officer Frank Baker.
Present.
Todd Korchin.
Here.
Chief Steve Lund.
Here.
Nora Loughnane.
Here.
And Brendan Ryan.
Here.
Great, thank you. Thank you, and once again, good evening, everyone. I first want to give permission to Westwood Media Center to record tonight's meeting, and thank you very much for being with us tonight. As you are all aware, the working group has been meeting since the beginning of the year to provide input into the redesign of the Canton Street project. And although we have received public comment at a number of our meetings this year, we are largely dedicating tonight to public comment after we have extensively discussed conceptual ideas for that redesign. And while the working group has done a lot of talking over these last few months, tonight is really a night for listening. And what we're hoping for are comments from all of you that are focused on the conceptual ideas that we've been discussing. I want to thank all of you for being here tonight, for making the effort to be here tonight, because it shows that you care about your town and you care about your neighborhood. And all of us in this room are neighbors. And I've been thinking a bit lately about what it means to be a neighbor in the context of watching the aftermath of Hurricane Helene down south and watching those neighbors take care of each other, some of them providing shelter to people whose homes are no longer livable, providing food and water and clothing to their neighbors who no longer have any, much as we would all do for each other if we were hit with a destructive hurricane or a blizzard. And so it's in that vein that I hope we can all approach this evening in the vein of mutual respect. And even if we don't agree with what it is that is being said by our neighbor. We are asking everyone tonight, please not to speak unless it is your turn and you have the microphone. And there's been some background chatter in some of these meetings while people are speaking, and it can make it very difficult for other people to hear, so please only speak if you are addressing the co-chairs from the microphone, and please address your comments to the co-chairs. Also, we're asking for everyone to please not clap or cheer negatively or positively so that everybody feels respected and heard tonight. Steve will get into a bit more about our procedure tonight, but we're going to ask everyone to please limit their comments to 3 minutes or less so that we have time for everyone to speak who wants to. Just lastly, a couple of things I think all of us in this room can agree upon is that safety of our residents is a critically important issue. And I think we can also all agree that preserving the character of our town, and particularly the scenic and historic nature of Canton Street, is also very important to Westwood. Town government is a public process, and the more that people engage in that process, the stronger it becomes. So thank you all very much for being here, and with that, I will turn it over to Steve Rafsky.
Thank you. Good evening, and I'm not going to speak for very long because we want to hear from you, but since many people have not been here throughout the whole process, I did want to make some opening comments. We're going to need to get the list pretty quickly of who is asked to speak as well. But just to be so we're all on the same page. The Canton Street Working Group, and that's what this group is called, was given a mission to suggest revisions to the plan that was presented in September of last year. We are not a granting authority. We're an advisory board, an advisory group. On a personal level, I've lived on Canton Street for 36 years. And as long as I've lived in this town, I've heard about two things. We're going to make it safer, we're going to put in traffic calming, and we're going to put in a sidewalk. And that has not happened in 36 years. Some attempts to do traffic calming has happened. One could argue how effective they've been, but we have not succeeded in the goals that I've heard for 36 years. Additionally, we've made Canton Street a shared use street to share bicycles with the cars, which I'll let others decide if that's adding to the safety or not. It adds for a definition. We can do better than that. I believe the revised plan that we have before us has moved in a great way to improving safety. It has better tools to significantly improve traffic calming and provides non-vehicular access, whether it's car, pedestrian, or whatever, a way for residents to connect. It's one of the things we've heard so much from people who've made comments. Tonight, we're focusing on residents' comments regarding the current version of the plan. As has already been said, if you want to speak, hopefully you signed in. I'll call on people in the order that people did sign in. As many people do want to make comments, and because we do have limited time, by the way, our hope is to end by 9 o'clock, but we do have a hard stop at 10, just so everyone knows. And so we are asking people to limit their comments to 3 minutes if possible. In addition, I hope that your comments are really focused on the plan before us. And lastly, please speak into the microphones, because not only people here won't hear you, but people at home, when they view this later, will not as well. I do look forward to a good discussion tonight. I do want to make a comment that we've had lots of comments, whether it's by email, by phone, talking in the hallway. And if you look at where the plan started and where it is today, many, many, many of the changes that were made were the result of your comments, not ours. And I want to personally thank everyone who has participated. It's been an interesting ride so far. For those who haven't kept up with it, let me give you a summary of some of the key changes from last September to today. The entire project, as it is shown on the screen, is totally within the town's right-of-way. There's not any takings to make this happen, in other words. We've removed grass buffers in certain areas, like from Adams Street to 240 Canton Street, which is the Weatherby Farm property. We've shifted alignment up to 2 feet to the west between Courier Lane and Kilronan. We've removed grass buffers between 396 Canton Street and Partridge to have less impact. I could go through the list. We've removed raised medians at Everett Street intersection and shifted alignment west to 485 Canton Street again to reduce impacts. If you look at the project that was before us a year ago, there were 61 walls that were completely moved. Now it's down to 31 walls that have impact. And the prior plan had 24 walls that were moved back toward a house more than 10 feet. The current plan has 7. We are still at a although we've made a lot of progress, this is still a conceptual plan. If the select board decides to move forward after this, and I'll come back to that in a second, there'll be a lot of engineering, a lot of refinement, and a lot of work to make it better than what you see today, and to further diminish the impacts that we have. Also, We will work very hard on things like rebuilding walls so it looks like it does today, planting trees with more mature than normal so we can replace the look quicker than today, and also selecting different materials so it looks different than even what we've shown you. As an example, if we can show the slides. Joe Cohn is here. Joe is a landscape architect, and John Rockwell, the engineer who's been helping us through this process. And Joe took a look, and I can't see it now, but we've been asked, well, why does the street have to be cement? You know, it doesn't. But as you can see, this is a view as it looks today. And we really want to focus on the sidewalk side, to be open. This is really not designed to show tree changes and all. We're not at that point. But if you go to the next slide, you can see this is where a coloring difference can make it blend in a little more. And this is an example at a crosswalk that has a buffer. And if you go to the next slide, a different kind of material can blend it in even differently. If you look at the slide near Aaron Street, same thing. This is what it looks like today. And that's the kind of treatment or a different treatment that could blend in a little better. That's just conceptual to show you what can be done. And that's what the next wave will do. So again, this is a 25% plan. It's fairly conceptual. The process after tonight to our working group is we'll hear the comments tonight. We'll review the plan to see if there's any recommended changes we ought to make after listening tonight. We would like to reconvene this month to see where we are and potentially vote on a recommendation to go back to the select board one way or another. We are looking, let me just address it now so in case we run out of time now. We're looking at 2 dates right now. If we could just get a sense, if you could just let us know in the working group, either October 22nd or 23rd. If that could work, we're not sure what the location would be. There's a couple, 3 choices, but if we can just take a quick look and get a sense, we're going to turn it quickly into comments from the public. So, how many of you are available on the 22nd? Looks like Gary.
23rd. It's Tuesday.
Okay, Maureen.
I can make the 22nd if need be.
And Maureen, are you?
Oops. The 23rd.
Pardon?
23rd? You said
22nd and
23rd.
23rd, but I'm asking now about 22nd.
Oh, sorry about that. That one I can't make.
Okay, and the
At the
23rd?
moment.
And the 23rd? Okay, it looks like there's more of a consensus for the 23rd. We'll try to do that before the 22nd. Oh, you're not available? You're not available on the 23rd?
Not either on the 23rd.
Okay. All right, we're going to turn it over to Tish to figure this out because I'm not going to succeed, I have a feeling, tonight. Sorry, Tish. And I want to thank Tish. She is the person in the corner who is works at the town administrator's office. She keeps us organized. She's pulled all these meetings together, coordinated everything. Thank you, Tish. So with that, the first person, and thank you for being first, was Jack Pincus, 294 Canton Street. If you'd like to approach the mic, were you planning to speak?
I walked in, I saw these ladies offering me a piece of paper to sign and I care to speak.
Can you step closer to the mic? 'Cause
And,
we cannot hear you.
I didn't expect to be number one. So I did write a few notes just in case I was called. I'll make it brief. Just my opinions, that the traffic calming areas that are in place now are a hazard. I've seen an accident happen in front of my house where the car going too fast and hit my neighbor's fence. I think they should be removed under any conditions. Also, electric bikes, scooters, and pedestrians are a hazard to each other. And that, in my opinion, I don't like the idea of having this roadway for bikes and pedestrians in front of the house or along the street. Also, any changes to the mailbox locations I consider are discriminatory to the elderly and the handicapped. It's difficult enough now to get to the mailbox without being hit, particularly in wintertime, where you really have to go out on the road. And using today's political rhetoric, this is a rigged program.
Thank you. Charles Elliott.
Okay, my name is Charles Elliott, and I'm on Everett Street.
542 Everett Street.
What's that?
542 Everett Street.
Oh, okay, 542 Everett Street. And I have two, if you will, groups of questions that I want answered. And whether they get answered tonight or whether you can respond to me via email. But my first group of questions has to do with, and I'll pass this out. I have limited copies, but whoever wants them can take them. The first group of questions has to do with this group, the Canton Street Working Group. My question is really, how is this selected?
Sure.
Because it sounded to me like every member of this board or group, at least the majority, are for this project. So I want to know, how were they selected? You don't have to answer the questions now, but that's one of my major concerns. Is the working group supposed to represent the residents? Because I don't get that message. I don't think you're representing the residents of this area. Has the working group conducted a survey to find out exactly what the residents want? I don't believe that's happened. And I don't see anybody raising questions about my question. Has this working group reviewed three what I consider to be important documentation? One is the beta study. The other is the Scenic American letter. And the third is the Mass DOT public feedback data. Now, at the last meeting, that form was sent out. I didn't fill it out. But I wondered, over the past meetings that you've had, assuming that form was available, did it get filled out, and what's the results of it? My second section has to do with,
Thanks, Chuck.
has to do with Canton Street per se.
So,
The
Mr. Elliott, you've been 3 minutes. Can you summarize pretty quickly?
Yeah, I'll
And if there's
summarize
time
very
at the
quickly.
end, we'll come
Yeah.
back to you, but also,
Yeah. My conclusion is that there's too many ifs, ands, and buts about this project. And I think that it should be terminated, reconfigured, and proceed from that. I don't think that looking at that simulation of Canton Street, it gives me the willies, because all I can see is cars speeding down the straightaway.
thank you, Mr. Elliott. Gwen Zappo, 537 Everett Street.
I too did not expect to come here to talk tonight, but again, I saw the piece of paper and the opportunity, so here I am. When will this project be complete after it is agreed upon, the state agrees to pay for it?
We're asking for comments. I'll try to
I'm sorry, excuse me, I am asking for comment because I've never seen a date of completion.
So it's on a TIP plan to be approved in 2028. And that means if this is going forward, all the engineering and everything would need to be completed by 2028, and then the plan would be phased in after that.
Okay, thank you. My concern is, I'm not sure that the board is thinking about the disruption to the neighborhood. I lived in this neighborhood for over 20 years, and I don't have a small black heart. I agree that Canton Street has needed a sidewalk for a very long time. I do not agree that it needs a bike lane and a nice sidewalk wide enough for people to run down with two children side by side, their arms outstretched. I've lived here for 22 years. I've raised two children, never had an issue. They've had friends all over the neighborhood. It didn't preclude them from visiting anyone. Did I let them walk on Canton Street for more than a block? No. I don't think it's appropriate to have small children out on that street walking. But that being said, I think removing some of the islands is probably the only thing that has helped calm some of the traffic on Canton Street. I hope that in whatever plans they're talking about is reducing the speed limit on Canton Street as well. Canton seems to have it at 20 miles an hour up Dedham Street. I don't see why we can't do the same thing. I think that would do a lot. That's it. That's all I gotta say. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Kristen Dempsey,
Hi, yes.
565 Everett.
Yep, 565 Everett Street. I just want to throw it, sorry, that seems so loud. I'm not for the 8-foot multi-purpose lane. Like Glenn said, a little sidewalk, fine. But when you add everything else to it, it just, taking away the islands it's not safe. I mean, I've been here for over 37 years. I grew up here, my daughter's now 20, and her friends are all over the place too. They ride bikes here, there, and everywhere else, now down to University Station. And we've all done it in an appropriate way. You just have to be careful. I walk on Canton Street with my dog. Most of the times, it's, you know, you just have to use your head. And traffic calming, Canton Street is far from calm now. The traffic going, because I used to work at Downey and now I'm at Pine Hill, it takes me 20 minutes to get to the Downey Elementary School, which is ridiculous. That shouldn't be a problem. And I know now, because Blue Hill Ave is gone, you can't cut through that way. If we open that up, it may alleviate some of the traffic going everywhere else. Because if you think about it, going towards Dedham, going towards Canton, and going down to the train station, that's 3 ways that everybody can get to the highway. So it's a cut through. So if you remove those islands, you're just going to make it a straight shot to go either way for anybody who's traveling that way, because it is a cut through, if you think about it, for the majority of the people. I don't think it's a good idea. I think you're taking away from a lot of people who live on Canton Street. The whole reason why they moved here, you know, it's the trees are there, the quaintness of the walls. I mean, we don't even know how much it's going to cost. I mean, they've spent over $700,000 to come up with a plan, and we're not even there. Like, I understand that safety is a huge concern. I mean, obviously, majority of us are parents, and our kids go to school here. That money could have been for the high school, for the roof at the high school. It could have been for the fire truck that we're in desperate need of. That's over $700,000. How much money do we have left in the budget? Maybe $200,000? Can we put that money towards something that the whole community, the 16,000 residents or plus that live here. Because I don't see everybody coming just to go on this sidewalk. You know, I think the money could be put to better use for the whole community, not just, I don't know, that Canton Street. You know, if you think about it, it's a lot of money that has been wasted and we haven't gotten anywhere. So,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Maria Constantine, 15 Spelman Street.
Hi, is this a good distance?
We can hear you.
You can hear
Or
me?
come step closer if you would.
Yeah. Well, I come from a different standpoint. First of all, I want to thank the DPW director for initiating this proposal.
Could you talk into the microphone a little
You
bit?
step closer
Yeah.
to the mic.
Okay. Thank the DPW director for the application and for the successful response from the MPO. I think we have a gift now of 22 million for a project that I think it will enhance our lifestyle. I am in favor of this project, and particularly of the 8-foot single path, because for various reasons. So we know, we already talked about the traffic. Canton Street is a scenic street, but it's also a pass-through street. Every day, an average of 5,000 cars go through. And we residents abutting Canton Street have the issues of traffic pollution, traffic noise, and don't have any safe access to the street. So basically we are prisoner, and we have this beautiful street that is only occupied by cars. So if we have an 8-foot path, we will be almost at par with cars. We will be safe, we will be able to walk, kids maybe will be able to walk to Downey. We will be walk to bike to friends and neighbors across town. There will be a lot of opportunities for all of us to more know each other even. The path would also be a buffer for the residents in a way. Instead of having the car by your wall, you will have a beautiful path where people can walk. So I see this as a win-win situation. And obviously there will be issues. We still have a lot of work to do. There will be disruption when we have to build it. But you know, when there is a resurfacing of roads, also there is a disruption. For me, this is like, I feel like as my legacy to my children and their children. It will take a while for Canton Street to return to the state that we like it. But it's a process. Nature renews itself, and we will get it back. It might be 10 years, but so I say we cannot stop this project now, and I hope that we actually bring it to completion.
Thank you. Anita Mapani at 7 Blue Hill Drive.
Yes. Good evening. I just wanted to come here and say thank you to everyone who's worked so hard on this project. And I also am in full support of this project. I live at 7 Blue Hill, which is at the corner of Blue Hill and Canton Street. And I personally don't feel safe walking with my daughter along Canton Street. Growing up in a different town, we always had sidewalks, and a big part of my childhood was riding my bike to friends' houses and walking to school, and I would love it if my daughter could do the same. So I think that this really improves the safety of the area, the accessibility of the area, and just makes it a more inclusive area for everyone to be able to access. So thank you for everyone who's worked on this.
Thank you. Benitha Palakuri, if I can read it right, 30 Palomino Lane.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. First, I want to extend my sincere thanks to this
Come,
team,
just
this
step a
committee
little
here
closer.
for putting in so much hard work to bring out the information, materials, to make us understand what's going on. And secondly, we have been living here for almost 30 years. And 30 years back, Canton Street was different. The community that was living in this area was different. Maybe there were not so many people who were walking with kids and all that. I don't know, because we had nieces and nephews, but it used to feel like a very safe place at that time to come and walk on Canton Street. But now that we are here, I don't feel safe to come and walk on Canton Street. Because number one is that 95 access road, so there is more traffic, and more people are trying to walk. I see lots of runners, walkers with kids, kid and dogs. And really, I don't feel safe at all. So I really support this project for that one reason, that I want to have a safe community where we are all enjoying all the benefits of the community. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you. Kate Cochran, 406 Canton Street.
Good evening. Some of my concerns are about the amount of money that is being allotted for this project, and will it truly cover the full extent of the project in the way that people envision it? And if it doesn't cover the extent of the project, what happens then? That's my question, is do we go back to the town and ask for more money?
So I'm trying not to answer, but since you're looking at me
Yes.
and asking that direct
Well-
question, let me address that real quickly.
Mhm.
So this is under a program that right now, 20-some million dollars is on the plan for this. The way the program works is if this plan continues, I am sure it's going to cost more than that, but if it does go over that, the granting process would accommodate the extra funds. Right now, we have a project where the town's portion is to get the design done. But the material cost, maybe all of it, but if not all of it, a very substantially all of the cost, are covered outside the town right now if we qualify for this program.
Okay. So all our stone walls would be replaced as they look today?
Exactly.
Okay. And the trees would be replaced? Not as they look today, I'm sure.
Well, if they're 40-foot trees, they won't be replaced with 40-foot trees, but as mature a tree as we can and a proper tree to get the kind of result that we're looking for, yes.
In our instance, on our piece of property, we lose our driveway so that you can only get a car length in the driveway. Is that, anything like that taken into consideration?
So where we are in the process now, I think just for the public's comment to know, Mrs. Cochran has probably the single largest impact along Canton Street. And I respect the fact that she has concerns. And for the record, we've had several discussions, and I want to thank you for the cordiality of those discussions.
Thank you.
And the answer to your question, because we have looked at this very consistently, there is much we can do with landscaping. There is much we can do by reconstructing walls. It's the next phase of the project to do. We want to be engaged. There are 5 houses in particular that have more impact than any other location. And I am encouraging the town, if the project goes forward, to really look very seriously at those 5 properties, including yours, Ms. Cochran.
Thank you.
To see how to best mitigate this so that you have a look that is similar to what you have. Granted, you do have some frontage that is being lost. And again, the frontage that's being lost is within the right-of-way. There is no taking of property.
Well, I think in fairness, and I think Gary brought this up at the last meeting that we were at, when residents bought that property, we bought our property more than probably 50 years ago, that was never brought to our attention. So we bought the property not knowing that the town really had access to the first 15 feet of our property. So, not that, but.
And just in that comment, again, this is not a debate, I want to support that. I've had many comments from many people. The fact is that the current right-of-way that's on Canton Street has been there for almost 75 years. So it was somewhere around 1950 that this right-of-way was redone, and the current right-of-way was on the ground. So a lot of people, and I'm not saying Ms. Cochran, a lot of people have called me to say, you're taking my lawn. The misconception is that my lawn goes to the edge of the street. Just so we can be very open about it, a street is put in at the minimum width required, but the town maintains a right-of-way, property beyond that width, so if in the future, whatever the changes might be, the town has the ability to do that. I think at the best we could say no town does a good job of explaining right-of-ways. But that misconception is not just yours, and I wanted to acknowledge it. And now I have no idea where you are in the 3 minutes, so please go on.
Just one other comment. I hear safety mentioned again and again and again, and not that I'm against safety, I'm not. But for all of us who have lived on Canton Street for the length of time and raised our families, we have managed to keep them safe, with our children going to school, with them playing, having play dates, whatever it took to keep our families safe, we've done that. So we deserve congratulations for keeping our families safe. No children have been hurt that I've ever heard of in the probably 45 years that we've lived in our home on Canton Street. So I think we've been able to keep our children safe. And whether this street warrants a sidewalk of that magnitude, I think a smaller sidewalk would be much preferred. Thank you.
Thank you. And before I ask for the next caller, there's just a couple of points that I've heard. And as I said, there's been a lot of misconception. I just want to address a couple of those because it might help the discussion tonight. And I please don't want this, if it sounds like it, I'm not countering anything said. I'm trying to just say for the record some facts. First, just the easiest one is that, just for everyone's knowledge, e-bikes are not allowed on a shared use path. So a lot of people have concern that e-bikes and pedestrians don't go together. That is correct, and e-bikes are not allowed on the shared use path if there is going to be one. But the real point I want to make is a lot of people have called me to talk about a sidewalk only. If there was a sidewalk, let me first say there is no funding for that. So I personally have tried not to pretend that if we had a 4-foot sidewalk, it would be better, because it's no sidewalk or this plan is what I've been approaching this. But the thing I want to point out, on a busy street like we have, if we were going to have a sidewalk, the difference between this path and a sidewalk and a buffer is around 2.5 to 3 feet. So the different, now we could talk about the look, the aesthetics and all, but just so people know, what we're talking about is 2.5 to 3 feet more to get a funded project or no project. And I just want people to keep that in mind. And I'm not saying which is the right way, but it's not a choice of a sidewalk. So what I've been told, this project is probably around $25 million. If we would do a sidewalk only, it's probably close to $20 million. Because even to do a sidewalk, we have a lot of street changes, there's a lot of work to do. So it's not like if we did a sidewalk, we could do it for $3 or $4 million and then we go to town meeting. It's a very big ticket item, whether we do it or one way or the other. So I just want to set the record straight as people are thinking about that. We've had a lot of calls about that. And lastly, as I already mentioned, if there is a project, the only way it's going to go forward if we do it in a way that gets funded. And so the concern that we're going to come up with a design that's $50 million, as someone called me yesterday, and $50 million and the state's going to pay for half and we'll pay for half, that's not the case. We're going to have a project that is funded, because if there's no money for a sidewalk, there's no money for a bigger project here, in my opinion. So hopefully that helps clarify a few things. And again, I'm not trying to cause a debate, I just want to clarify what I think are facts. Is Jack Cochran? Oh, there, I didn't see it.
I just have one quick question. Are we replacing the sewer when we do this project? And I'd like to donate the rest of my time to this gentleman who wasn't finished.
Sewers? No, we're not, Steve.
No, well, I think the answer is we're not, but excuse me, if you're not on the list, well, if we have time at
I'm
the
on
end.
the list. You don't remember me? 542.
Okay, well, I'm doing it in the order of the list.
Yeah, but he's just acquiesced for me to use the rest of his time.
You will.
That's the way normally the parliamentary procedure proceeds.
Well, what we advertise is we're going to ask people to speak in the order that people signed in. And I'd like
Right,
to
so my
maintain-
name is his name.
Sir, please, I'm not trying to debate. We're, out of respect to everyone else, we said that we'll call people in the order.
Thank you. Am I going to get an opportunity at the end of this meeting?
We will have, everyone who signed in will have an opportunity to speak. Yes. I'm not muzzling anyone. We have a process we're going to follow.
Did you read my hat, by the way?
I can't read the name that's on here next. Oh, is that John, 45 Forbes, is that John Hardy? Who's,
No.
I can't, is John, I can't read the last name, 45 Forbes.
No, no, no.
Oh,
John. I think it's wrong, John.
who lives
You
at
want me to
40,
talk?
No, 45 Forbes.
who lives at 45 Forbes Road?
It says 45, it should say 25.
What's your name, sir?
John
What's your last name?
Hassenjaeger.
Okay, that's probably you. You should be
Oh,
25.
thank you.
Okay,
I
thank
thought it
you.
was me, I wasn't sure, but your confirmation is, don't start the time yet. 3 minutes is enough. I would just say this started in Downey Street. 600 people showed up. DOT was discussing a traffic corridor, rebuilding Canton Street as a traffic corridor. You folks know what a traffic corridor is. It's not a scenic way. It's not a traffic calming situation. It's not a safe situation. It's a benefit for the slip lane on Route 95. Interestingly, Canton, your neighbor with Foresight, they have the same issue going the other way off the slip lane, and guess what? They decided to design a street like Canton Street with islands and traffic calming features instead of a traffic corridor, which is these people are selling you for a high-speed traffic and to have a high traffic volume. I have to object to Mr. Rafsky's 36-year narrative. We went to the county engineers. They claim, and by the way, it's their easement and their right-of-way, not Canton's. I mean, not Westwood's. Westwood hasn't taken it. And by the way, when Mr. Rafsky scolds you, when a road's built, you own to the middle of the road until it's formally accepted by the community. So at one time you did own that land. The town never paid for anything. So anyway, 2013, they finished their rebuild of Canton Street with traffic calming and islands. They had neighborhood meetings. Everybody signed off. Everybody was happy. There's letters and documentation in the meetings. This is 10 years ago. Canton Street had a ribbon on it, and it was done deal. You're being told that people have been complaining over the years and so forth. It's really a false narrative. What really disturbs me is this committee. 600 people signed petitions to the town of Westwood, and you just said you were going to have a committee representing the residents who were there that evening. Well, out of your committee of 15, only 3 people are there who represent Canton Street, who were part of that 600. The rest of you are so-called buddies in the system. You're town officials, committee members, and you're here to push the narrative of the $21 million. Let's get to the bottom line. For the first time in these meetings, out of 8 meetings, the public's only allowed to speak 3, this is the 3rd time. Mr. Rasky unpackaged it that they're really after the $21 million, otherwise there's no deal here. This hadn't been said before, but now the truth comes off. They're after the $21 million. Who asked for this redo? What was the need? The community, the people lived in the street didn't ask for this to happen, and they didn't ask for a traffic quarter. This is a sales job. It's a narrative that's being pushed. No one asked to have 37 stone walls removed, 12 islands removed, to have traffic volumes north of 9,000 cars, to have out of 1,200 possible trees to be touched, 400 absolutely removed, another 200 around the guardrails. This is a destruction campaign. And a couple of people come up and testify, but this is if a couple individuals, it's about me, instead of the neighborhood. This is a historic neighborhood. This has got historic area, historic road, historic stone walls, scenic way protection. And you don't have to have a sidewalk on every street in town. And 98% of the streets in Westwood do not have bicycle paths.
It has been over 3 minutes.
Well, but it's important. I think that the public should be outraged the way this has been handled. There's no fair vote on this committee. Their proposal is going to go forward. And it was a misrepresentation to the 600 families who signed a petition who said no, and they never got to be represented fairly in this whole process. And I think the public has every right to be outraged. Those individuals who speak out, who have a bicycle or a child, I would just say, this is tantamount to going to like Williamsburg, where they have a restoration neighborhood, where each home is meticulously preserved in a historic way, in a preservation fashion. And one young person moves in with a bicycle and a kid, and they want to build a California ranch house with glass windows and all kinds of bells and whistles. This is the same thing that's going on here. A few young people have moved in, and they're harping about their kid or their grandmother or their bicycle, but that's really not the character of Canton Street. I think, it's being destroyed. It's a shame. This committee, the individuals, there's only 2 or 3 people pushing this, and I have to tell you folks, why $21 million? What happens on these projects, the government keeps a contingency of 30%, 35%. So that means the selectmen would possibly get $6 million in their pocket at the end of the project as a slush fund. This is what people in politics are. In $21 million, don't say it's coming from somebody else. You got your state pocket and your town pocket. It's coming out of your pocket anyway. There's no free good here. There's no free lunch, no free money.
I'm sorry,
So-
you've been over twice now, the time.
All right, I'll come next time and finish.
I will try to call on you if there's time at the end to finish.
Thank you.
Carmen Damasio, 22 Endicott.
How are we doing? Are you hanging in there? I guess suggestions more than anything else. Again, granite curbs, I think I mentioned last time, if 10-foot lanes, Amazon truck stops in front of you, you pull up behind them, you turn, someone's coming the other way, probably hit you. Why do people like to bike and jog on Canton Street? Not a ton of people, but why? It's beautiful. I belong to a car club, and we maybe take a Sunday tour, we pick streets that are scenic. Okay, so that's, we come down Canton Street and go to Ice Cream. 10-foot lanes, fire truck's like 9 foot wide, but the outrigger isn't the whole bit. He's coming down the road, someone's a little bit over, he gets over, he cuts his tire on the granite curb, fire truck's out of commission. So, safety-wise, I think it's too narrow doing that. I have a thing here, but it'll go more than 3 minutes. So, if you have $27 million, whatever it is, I don't think that even mentions some sort of retaining wall down the end where you're gonna get into that slope. If you're 12-foot wide, Mother Nature likes to heal itself. You dig 12-foot wide with no retention, Mother Nature likes to fill it back in, and it'll be probably spill right on the sidewalk. So a retaining wall, probably hundreds of thousands of dollars to hold a bank back. So anyway, so skipping through all my things here, I did a little bid. I'm a contractor. I did a little bit of a bid. If you put an asphalt sidewalk, 4 foot wide, asphalt, I only figured for 1 mile. I don't know how long the project is. As it stands now, if you could pull the poles out and move them behind the wall, or like someone suggested a while ago, put the lines underground. I don't know if that can happen. But if the poles weren't there, you could run a 4-foot asphalt sidewalk, no berm, end to end, maybe both sides. Now people can walk back and forth, kids on little bikes. Even adults on a bike can probably, when you go down that hill on the other side, they'll probably get up to 25, 30 miles an hour. I think Dedham Street further down is put the speed limit to 25. So you can almost pedal a bike 25. E-bikes and everything on the road, you're supposed to give them 4 feet if you pass. You don't have the width there. So I just come up, engineers will probably know, I don't have prevailing wage schedules, but I'm just guesstimating. If you have a 6-man crew, 2 operators, 2 trucks, a loader and a skid steer or something like that, a grade all and a skid steer, we're using the big NEMs, $80 an hour for the operators and $75 for the trucks and laborers, with FICA and everything else, be about $8,000 a day for a crew. When you saw Downey Street, they probably put in about 300 feet, they can prep. So 1 mile, take like 17 or 18 days, you can prep it. 17 or 18 days more, you can put down 3 inches of mix in 2 lifts. If you're tight around the poles, again, if you can pull the poles, it'd be great. But if you can't pull the poles, I noticed there's a pole and it's tight. Maybe you could just reconfigure a wall for 10 foot on either side of the pole so you can walk around the pole. Or you have poles on this side, come up this side, no poles, cross over, now you have no poles. So if it takes 40 days, so I mean, I come out with like $800,000 to put a no berm, 4-foot sidewalk, 3 inches thick, clear and grub.
And I apologize, your time is
So-
way over.
So anyway, so for, let's say, and I'm missing the engineering cost on it, so I'm at 800, a couple hundred for the engineering cost to design it. Probably for $1 million, $1.5 million, you can probably put an asphalt sidewalk, no berm, end to end. And what I'm getting at too is if it's $27 million or $30 million, 20% of that's $6 million, that the town has got to pay $6 million.
The town does not, I just want to correct, the town does not pay that.
Isn't it 20, I thought it was 80%, the government pays 80 and the town pays 6,
No.
20%?
No.
So there's no cost to the town at all?
This project would be totally funded by the state and the
Well, that
feds.
one I don't know, because
So-
they were saying 80% and 20.
Oh, there's federal and state sharing of the project, but the town is not sharing in the cost.
Well, so the town doesn't share the cost at
So,
all?
Again, I'm trying not to be,
Yeah.
I want to keep the discussion going, but
Well, anyway, if, at the last meeting, I understood it was 80%, 20% the town. If the costs go up, town pays a little bit more. That would be about $6 million that your town has to put out.
There is no such price tag for the town. It's just not right. The project is under a state and federal funded project if it gets approved.
No, what I'm getting at,
There is,
even beside that, for probably $1 million, you can put a sidewalk in.
well, and without getting into that, we've had people look at just putting a sidewalk in. There's much more to it than laying asphalt. I don't want to get into it. It's not what we've been designing, but I just want to let you know, because people are hearing that. There's things that need to be doing with realignment of road to make it safe. There's still walls that fit. There's so many
Again,
issues.
what I'm suggesting is not realign the
And I'm
road.
not
just-
debating, I'm just letting you know
Yeah.
it's not as,
Okay, well, look at other options for asphalt. People don't like to run on concrete. You don't want to cut tires on, you don't want to make an obstacle course for drivers. In the future, automobiles are going to be, if it's a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit, I mean, autonomous cars right now, they'll go 30 miles an hour if you have your hands off. So put traffic camera up if you want to slow the cars down.
if we have time at the end, we'll try to
Yeah.
have a second round, but I appreciate
Okay,
your
so anyway,
comments.
I can see different ways of
Thank
getting
you.
it done.
John, forgive me for not being able to read all the writing, but John at 457 Canton Street?
That's me, but I'm gonna pass, but I'm against it, that's all.
Okay, thank you, John. And then Paris Dasme at 10 Adams Drive?
What's our address?
Oh, Doshi, maybe?
Hey everyone. Paris Doshi, 10 Adams Street. So I grew up on Courier Lane, and I lived there for most of my life before going to college, and then I came back here to start my family and now live on Adams Street. I want to start off by saying that I am in a butter, Gary's neighbor, and I am in favor of this project. A lot of my land will be used for the shared use path. You can see it right there on the left. I think it's worth the time and the effort it's going to take in order to create something like this. I think since our first meeting at Downey, the plan has evolved a lot. It used to be a very large project, and it used to have takings. It's now an 8-foot raised shared use path, and it's only on one side of the street. And it's 100% within the right of way. This is a lot of progress. And we're still at the 25% design phase, right? So there's still a lot more to do after this. I'd say that now this plan is successfully mitigating a lot of the impact on properties in the street and still being funded by MassDOT. This is a large amount of money, and we're not going to be able to do a project otherwise. And so I think this is a pretty unique opportunity for a town and sorely needed. You know, whenever I drive home, every single day I see people walking on Canton Street, and it frankly makes me scared that I'm going to hit someone. And like it or not, people use the street for walking and for biking. And so we have to do something about the safety of the street. There's a very tiny shoulder, and it's very unsafe. And I mean, right now, even for my own family, my parents live on Courier Lane, and I have to get in the car to travel literally 400 feet from Adams to Courier because there's nowhere for us to walk. And even my friends on Blue Hill, too, same thing. And so, I mean, the trees can be replanted, the stone walls can be repaired and will be repaired according to the plan, but you can't get back someone's life, and you can't think about safety last in this scenario. This is a safety issue for me, plain and simple, and I think that we have to solve it. And we have an opportunity to do it without impacting our taxpayers and our town's hard-earned dollars. So, thank you.
Thank you. Diane Volpe, 30 Hemlock Drive.
Good evening. I don't really have a lot to say, except that I'm not in favor of this project. I'm here in support of my neighbors. I have lived in this neighborhood for well over 40 years, along with all of my nieces and nephews and grandnieces and nephews, and we've managed to walk safely in the neighborhood, in fact, even with our dogs, for many years, and we weren't afraid. It has always been the most beautiful scenic road. The reason why my husband and I decided to move into this neighborhood was because of Canton Street and the beauty that it provided and the peacefulness that we had. I think that maybe a lot of people probably don't feel safe anymore on Canton Street is because of the islands that were put in the middle, because now you find that the cars seem to be dodging, and I don't know whether or not it's really slowed the traffic at all. I think that people slow to miss the islands and then speed up again, and then they're just swerving. But anyway, I don't want to take up too much time. I feel for my neighbors who are being affected by all of this. I feel for our trees. I guess it's the perspective that you're coming from as to how you see this project. I worked for the government for many years. I retired from the government. I know how these projects work. I know what's in it for the people who work on these projects and how people get raises and profit from it also. I just ask you in good conscience to listen to the majority of people who come from this neighborhood and how it is affecting them. They have tried to build safe havens for their families. They've raised their families, and now many of them are probably in their retirement ages. And I feel for them and the peacefulness and the camaraderie that we've had for many years. I have never felt that Canton Street has been all that dangerous, and I'll give it up. Thank you.
Thank you. Jason, again, I have trouble with the last name, is
I'm right here.
64? Yes.
I'll decline because all my comments have already been covered, so I'll give someone else more time.
Okay, thank you. Rachel Down, 29 Hedgegrove Lane.
Thank you. I won't take up too much time, but I just want to reiterate, if the decision is truly between the residents paying for a $20 million project, which I don't think anyone probably wants to do that, and the reality of that probably won't happen in any sort of near term, I definitely choose sidewalk for a lot of, people have said it over and over again, safety and connectivity. I live on 29 Hedgerow Lane with my husband and my 4 children, and when we first moved, I used to try to walk a little loop around Canton and walk to a few friends' houses, and very quickly realized that it's very dangerous. With the stroller, you're running from one driveway to the next driveway. But it's tempting. You want to, because it's, Canton is connects the entire Downey neighborhood. I love trees and I love the scenery, so I definitely want to see everything replaced, and I want to see the walls replaced, and I want to keep that beauty. And I feel for the residents right on Canton Street. From my perspective, though, and having children, and we live so close to Canton, I choose sidewalk. So, thank you.
Thank you. Steve Owenoff.
Steve Owenoff, 52 Glandor Road, and I've been previously described as the guy who wants the wires underground. But I think it's important, I think it's worth repeating, so I will, that this is our one opportunity we have to put these wires, all these utilities underground. We've done it before for High Street, for Washington Street, for University Ave. The town doesn't pay for it, but the residents do. Everyone in the town on their electric bill pays for it. This process is, we've done it before, like we can do it again. If we don't do it now, it just will never happen in anyone's lifetime here. So I urge you to keep working on that and get this part of the project. Thank you.
John Harding, 148 Forbes.
Good evening, I'm John Harding. I live at 148 Forbes Road. I've been there since 2022, and as many of you know, involved in everything to do with traffic in this area since I moved there. I have some profound concerns about whether this project meets the central goals that the committee has discussed of safety, access, and connectivity. I grew up far from here in a Midwestern city that had a complete sidewalk infrastructure, and it was great. I was walking to school 8 and 10 blocks from the time I was in the first grade. But when I walked in this evening and saw the first slide on the screen, all I could see was a concrete island dropped into the middle of this town that does not promote any of those goals. It's an island that I, living on a street that's fairly close to this area, can't get to. Because to do so, I would have to go down Forbes Road, which we're very lucky. We had the, I think it was safety walks to schools. I forget the actual program, but put in very nice sidewalks a few years ago. I then turn left and go up Everett Street, past Mr. Elliott. There is no sidewalk. There is no, it is such a narrow street, and as everyone who lives in this area knows, a real speedway. There's nowhere to walk, even on a shoulder. So I'm taking my life in my hands to walk up Everett Street. Then, as indicated on the slide that's up there now, there's a crosswalk. Well, I'm going to tip my toe into the crosswalk and count on the kindness of the cars coming down to stop for the sidewalk, stop for the crosswalk. It may be the law, but it's not the reality. So I'm never going to get across the street to the island to be able to use it. And no one on Canton Street on the other side is going to be able to. They're going to have to walk down, ride down, whatever, down to one of these crosswalks. So you're not even making it accessible to the people on the other side of the street. It is not an accessible project. It does not connect anything to anything. I also want to address, from an ADA perspective, I'm legally blind, yet I navigate the streets of Boston every day going to work without a problem because there is that kind of infrastructure, the kind of signaling, things, you know, and I'm not suggesting at all that you put that in this town. But there is a law. There are 300 pages of regulations, state and federal, that govern shared use paths. And at the meetings, I watched all the meetings that were recorded and saw nothing discussed about this issue. Last year, when someone brought it up, there was a lot of laughter. That's not helping people, neighbor helping neighbor, to be laughing about ADA issues. It's not only the law, it's the right thing to do. And this project will not be accessible to people with disabilities. I've made inquiry. The Commission on Disabilities apparently has done nothing in terms of investigating this issue. I inquired today about the specific regulations that govern this, and Mr. Coleman relayed a communication from the engineer that will just seek a variance. So in other words, you're going to try to find a way to get around the law rather than complying with it. That, to me, is not the spirit of Westwood, and the ADA issues have to be addressed, and they've not been addressed at all. You have to go to state and federal architectural and barrier boards to get a variance, but just the fact that the town wants to get a variance rather than comply with the law, I find very regrettable and disturbing. Thank you.
Thank you. Jen Flanders, 866.
Hi, everyone. I live at Gay Street, so another neighboring fellow resident on a main road. I will note that I love having a sidewalk in front of my house. When we moved, our neighbors actually told us we lived on the more desirable side of Gay Street because we had a sidewalk in front of our house. I have 2 young kids. We can walk and bike safely to anywhere in the Islington neighborhoods. And when we are walking, cars nearly always slow down when they go by us, which is much appreciated. My husband's a runner, and he's run on most every road in town. He knows from experience that Canton Street is easily the most dangerous street to walk, run, or bike on in Westwood. I also appreciate that this potential sidewalk project will coincide with some necessary utility work. I know that digging is ridiculously expensive, and so if we can combine this work, it sounds like a huge tax savings to the town. Thank you.
Thank you. Give me a few more comments. John Barucci, 556 Canton Street.
Just want to express that I'm not in favor of the project. We've lived in Westwood for over almost 45 years on Canton Street, and I'm opposed to the rendition of that sidewalk. It doesn't do anything for the aesthetics, and there'll be too much disruption on the street. So I just want to express that I'm not in favor of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Peg, is it Runcie, 8 Spellman? Okay. I thought my writing was bad, so forgive me. Is it Maura Van Wagner?
Van Wagenen.
Okay, sorry. 181 Canton Street.
181 Canton Street. Can I just ask a question before I begin my 3 minutes? I know I might be taking extra time, but this project for the sidewalk and bikeway, is the money just for that, or does it include doing the street too? I guess I'm not clear on that.
Street as well.
All the improvements.
So you're talking about the street and the sidewalk, which will be 27 million that the state will give us. Will the state give us money for just the street without the sidewalk, or does it all have to go together?
No.
Oh, it's an all-together project. I don't know how many people have been aware of that. I wasn't aware of that, but thank you. So, and I also want to thank all of you, because I know the time and effort, and I appreciate really all the hard work and education, information that you all provide and give to these meetings. I'm so impressed the 31 years I've lived here in Westwood, and we are so lucky to have such a wonderful group of people that volunteer and give us really amazing advice. With that, I have attended so many of these meetings. You probably recognize me because I've spoken, and it just seems there's discussions on both sides, and I don't want to call it both sides, but it does seem to be a little one-sided either way, always seem to come down to pretty much the same things. I think pretty much the majority agrees to a sidewalk. I think that is really just pretty obvious. I think one of the things, Canton Street is a scenic byway, and it you know, take it for you what you want. The trees as they are, they fill in, they drop in the winter, they provide a lot of environmental benefit, but along that, it's scenic. It's dedicated that way, and that is what we appreciate. And I think, okay, so I think majority want a sidewalk, majority want us to maintain the scenic feel. We don't want an urban, you know, cement sidewalk that just destroys that feeling. And I think one of the things that I hear over and over and over again, and I know this is painful for everyone, we don't want the Department of Transportation dictating what we're going to do. And that is what's behind all of this. There's no it's black and white. The only reason is for the money. And I really feel, you know, that safety is what everybody's talking about. You buy a home in Westwood and you're paying a lot of money for that home. And with that, do we have to go to the state for the money? Why don't we take it out of our pocket and put a sidewalk where everybody wants? And that's one thing that I would ask. And with that, would like to know, how do we accomplish that? How do we get out of this Department of Transportation money bit, put in for a sidewalk, design it, while we have the tech people designing an 8-foot sidewalk with bikeway? Why can't we use their skills and do a 4-foot, 5-foot, whatever sidewalk, maintaining as much as what we can on the right-of-way? If you go down the street here, this is right across from my house, so I recognize this very well. In fact, I'm wondering about the sidewalk on the other side, because that's not supposed to be there. It is pretty much, you could put a sidewalk in, even behind the stone wall, without a lot of disruption to the towns there. I know one of the new residents on the corner has a fence that blocks his area, so the sidewalk could go right in front of that, behind the stone wall, without even damaging that, just cleaning up a little bit, which would benefit, which I think you'd find a lot of the area would be like that. So with that, those would be my suggestions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'd like to just pause for a second and offer a few comments. Did you want to address that? So first of all, just to be clear, this is a town project. The only reason DOT is involved is a grant is out there for a complete streets grant, I think is the right way to say it, or something, correct me if you want. So the state is the approval authority to make sure we comply with the grant requirements. But let me be very clear. If the town didn't have a project to go forward, the state would not be involved. So this is the town generating this process, not anyone else. No one came to this town to do the project. The town went and asked for this. Also, with regard to Mr. Harding's comments, and I think we need to acknowledge, haven't been brought up to speed on all the discussions, but if this project does go forward, there's clearly a process to make sure it's reviewed for all the ADA, and there's other regulatory issues that need to be addressed as well. It would not normally, as I understand it, be done at this point, but I think the point you're making is very valid. It needs to be reviewed. All the regulatory authorities that this comes before also would be brought in at the time if the project is going beyond this. Another comment I just would like to make is that this project that you see today is, as I said at the beginning, is materially different than the one we had a year ago. I think we ought to applaud all of those who spoke out to say they didn't want that project, because this is a totally different project. And I just wanted to acknowledge that, because that keeps coming up. Is there something that, I just want to look at the notes just to try to clarify some points. I think we'll move on. So next is Julia at 199 Canton Street.
Excuse my attire. I've been walking, but no, I can't stay. I'm Julia Irvine. I live at 199 Canton Street. I own the Julia Ruth House. I doubt they're here. Everybody took everything I was going to talk about. I just want to say, I probably won't be around to see this come to fruition, but I wish you all the best, and I hope whoever buys my home is happy with it. The most important thing is that everybody get along. I hate to see discussions where we're all neighbors, and we all want to get along and agree on what's best for us. A sidewalk, I have no problem with, but from what I've seen go on here, I'm with them, I'm not for them. So thank you very much.
Katie Nyman, 32 Greenacre Road. I'm not sure what's the address.
Hello, my name is Katie Neiman, and I live on 32 Greenacre Road. And I grew up, and for anyone who doesn't know, that's on the other side of town near the Sheehan School. I grew up in this town at 60 Willard Circle. My maiden name is Cooney. Hi. Oops. So, 60 Willard Circle, for anyone who doesn't know, is off of East Street, very close to the railroad bridge. I am in full support of this project, specifically for improving safety and also connectivity. In regards to the connectivity piece, I think it offers a particular benefit to the teen and preteen age group. It offers the ability to earn trust of parents to safely walk to a friend's house in a different neighborhood. And then in a few years to kind of gain trust to maybe bike together down to University Station. And then beyond that, earn trust to maybe get to the 128 train station and go in town. Having grown up off of East Street, the ability to access Islington via sidewalk really shaped mine and my two brothers' adolescent years. I've personally attended the majority of these working group meetings, and I'm really impressed how you all took feedback, specifically from concerns of folks who actually live on Canton Street, to guide your edits to the design. So thank you for that. In addition to the clear safety gains that this project will bring, I also see a lot of benefit, like I said, to the teen and teen age group. Thank you.
Thank you.
I believe the next name is Beth. I'm not sure the last name. Owen, thank you. Just state your address.
Hi, I'm Beth. I live at 40 Crystal Hill Terrace off of Mill, both streets with no sidewalks. I am in full support of this project. I want a more accessible and safe town. It's very dangerous to be walking in the street, and just because some of you who have spoken before me, your kids have not gotten hurt yet, doesn't mean our community should risk that. That's a very selfish perspective to young families in the town. Sidewalks are important for several reasons. First, safety. They provide a safe space for pedestrians, reducing the risk of accidents with vehicles. Accessibility. Sidewalks improve accessibility for people with disabilities, parents with strollers, and those using mobility aids, encouraging walking. Well-maintained sidewalks promote walking as a mode of transportation, which can lead to healthier lifestyles. Community interaction. Sidewalks foster social interaction and community engagement, and they encourage people to stroll, gather, and participate in local activities. Lastly, environmental impact. Promoting walking reduces reliance on cars, which help decrease pollution and traffic congestion. Overall, sidewalks are essential for creating safer, more vibrant, and sustainable communities. Let's think about the future of the town and young families who some of you will end up selling your homes to, who will all want this. Thank you.
Thank you. Chetan Mapar, 86 Canton Terrace.
Hello, good evening. This is Chetan Mapani from 86 Canton Terrace. Thank you, first of all, to all of you doing a wonderful job. And we are very proud of you all. We have been in this town for almost 30 years now. Our two kids have grown up. And Canton Street always scares us to walk on that street. We love to walk and jog on that street. But anytime we have to come out of Canton Terrace to Canton Street or cross to even our friend's place or to my son's out on Blue Hill, Blue Hill is okay, we still have to go through, but given all that, safety is main concern, and I am for this project which is going to bring safety to people who wants to walk on the road, on the street. Today I want to reflect on our complete street policy, which I want to bring it out. I'm not sure if people are fully aware of that. We had adopted this policy back in 2015, and we meaning this town. And basically, it's an essential in shaping the physical fabric of our community as our street, sidewalk, and trails that connect us, all of us, not separate us. Apparently, this street is even separating the families, as you may have heard from other people, that they can't even go as easily as across the street. So it's very important that we bring this policy. Now, other thing I want to bring out is we are talking only 1.9 miles. It's not like 11 miles of the whole town, because all other town has gotten a street where people can walk freely. They are connected, like Downey, Gay Street. They are all upgraded, and this will enhance the scenic view of this town by putting extra pad to that or upgrading to this project. So I'm definitely for it. And again, I want to thank you, all of you, for doing a good job.
Thank you. Thomas Caffarella, 147 Forbes.
Hi, that's me. I put my name down, but I wasn't really planning to speak. So I'll just give my time to someone else. But I will make a comment. It would be good if we could flash the slides back and forth to current day and proposed, just so we can see the difference again. You showed it once at the beginning, but okay, do it a couple of times.
But that second one is not what's proposed with the buffer. It's the next one.
So that's simulation and that's existing. Yeah, now that's existing. Okay.
That's,
Yeah.
but not the buffer.
All right, thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
Steve, just logistically, how many,
Maybe another 10 or 12.
okay.
So we're Beth Cronin or Elizabeth Murphy? Is that? Yes, that's.
Hi, Beth Cronin Murphy. I was not really planning to speak either, but if you could just flip it back to the other slide, sorry. I live on Forbes Road, 175. I grew up in Westwood. I grew up on Lions Drive, so I have a 55-year history with this neighborhood. The one thing I do want to say, just when I look at the sidewalk here, it makes me nervous. Living on Forbes, nobody stops at the sidewalk. I mean, nobody stops at the crosswalk. So I have 2 dogs, 2 kids. I'm outside all the time walking, and cars just do not stop at the crosswalk. So everyone's talking about safety here. That is something you have to figure out what to do, because cars fly up and down Canton Street all the time. Will cars actually stop? That would be a big concern. I don't know how you want to go about that, but that's something to take a look at. And just the traffic on Canton Street in the last 6 months is awful as well. So there's lots of traffic going up and down, so has to be some more mitigation to divert traffic elsewhere. Thank you.
Thank you. Colleen Durker, 255 Canton Street. Nope? No. Well, Peter, you're on the list too.
Hi, Peter Durker from 255 Canton Street, and I've lived here for 31 years, raised my kids without a sidewalk. And I understand everybody's request to have the sidewalk, because I understand why they all want it, but there's got to be other ways to do this by using Blue Hill Ave and the 2 neighborhoods on either side to get from back and forth back to Downey Street. And I know that that's how my kids used to go. They used to go down Forbes and cross over into, can't remember the name of the neighborhood back there, but anyways, down to Downey Street. So I'm not for this. I do appreciate all your time and effort, because I know I sat on a board like this once before. And the other thing is, and I agree with the last woman's comments, the traffic on Canton Street is so bad right now. And all you parents say that you're going to send your young kids and your teens up and down the street. I was out in front of my house, which is about another half a mile down that road, with traffic backed up to the rotary, and there's some kid sitting there smoking a doobie in a car waiting to get to Canton, get out onto the rotary. So it's not safe. I can tell you right now, with the amount of traffic going down Canton Street, that road is not safe for anybody. And I doubt you'll ever let your kids walk down it alone. I really do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter. Ronald White, 568 Canton. Did he already speak?
It is my sincerest wish that this project crashes and burns. Okay, but if by some unfortunate event that it does get approved, when the first bicycle rider gets killed on Canton Street, which one of you are going to stand up and say, hey, we were wrong? The operative word here, we. Who's going to do it? Just what I thought. Thank you.
Amol Mapani,
Want to see you riding your bike on
7 Blue Hill.
Hi, I'm Al Mapani, 7 Blue Hill Drive. So I grew up on Canton Terrace. I think you heard my dad earlier. Moved away after high school and then recently moved back to Westwood this summer as my wife and I started our family. Our home directly abuts Canton Street, and I think based on the latest drawings, we're actually one of the most impacted by the shared use path. Even with that impact, we are in full support of creating a shared use path on Canton Street for our community and its future. From where we were at the Downey meeting to where we are today, because of the committee's hard work, we now have a plan with a shared use path that uses 100% of the land that's in the right of way and improves the safety and accessibility of the road without adding a financial burden to the town, which I think is critical. It feels like a no-brainer to do this project. So from a safety standpoint, it sounds like there's actually mixed feedback on the islands, but it sounds like this plan will actually address the calming measures and make it more safe. So allow people to run, walk, or even push strollers without worrying about oncoming cars or slipping between the street and the gravel or weeds that currently exist. I know when I've tried to run, you're always looking behind your shoulder to see when the next car is going to be approaching. From an accessibility standpoint, the path also provides us a 3.5-mile continuous loop across Canton Street, Blue Hill, and University, as well as access to Downey, Islington Center, and multiple playgrounds, which is great for young families. It's fantastic for walkers, runners, children, everyone in the town. Ultimately, we have a rare opportunity to improve our town without major financial impact to our residents. The town has talked about sidewalks or paths for decades, and it's never moved forward due to other priorities based on the cost of the project. It's clear from the research that's been done for this work, a sidewalk, whether it's 5 feet or 4, would have similar impact to the street and its beauty. Everyone here today has said that they want a sidewalk, so let's not throw away $20 million when we're talking about 2 feet. With the thoughtfulness the committee has already put into the design, we can surely create a safe, accessible, and beautiful Canton Street. It's an opportunity that's not going to come up again. We need to do it for the safety of our residents, the accessibility of our residents, and future generations of Westwood people. I urge the Select Board to move forward with the Canton Street Shared Use Plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Jennifer Moran, 29 Courier Lane. It says 29, oh, I'm sorry, 99 Endicott, yes. Looked at the wrong line, sorry.
Jen Marks, 99 Endicott. I want to say thank you to everybody for your time in revising the plan and thinking about everybody's comments. I know that myself and many of my neighbors appreciate your time and efforts revising the plan. Building the Canton Street sidewalk not only improves pedestrian safety, but also brings significant long-term cost savings through critical infrastructure upgrades. Any drainage system repairs would prevent costly flood damage that could be occurring, or any upgrading of utilities could also prevent any expensive emergency repairs that are needed down the road. These fixes would lead, doing the overall improvement not only for the sidewalk, but also the utilities. I mean, the utility systems and everything that's under the street are very old to my knowledge and in need of repair. So I think that this is a great opportunity to use state funds to do that, and appreciate all of your efforts in revising the size of the sidewalk and the use and really do appreciate everybody's time. Thank you.
Steve, just on the utilities, the water department will pay for the water upgrades, and that'll be based on ratepayers paying for that capital expenditure. The sewer lines are not going to be replaced from my inquiry with the town, so the project will pay for the drainage improvements and the surface treatments, but the utilities are on our nickel, should we want to upgrade them.
Thank you, Gary. Sweeta?
Hi, thank you everyone for all the work that you've put in so far. It's a lot of work, a lot of effort, and also particularly to the members of the working group because they're volunteers. You know, it's really impressive for this town how you took the feedback from the residents and you've come back with quite a modified plan, which is 100% right-of-way within the town's right-of-way. And also appreciate the public feedback that you're taking. You know, most towns may not actually go through this rigorous process, especially when something's in the town's right-of-way. I am in full support of this project. I really want this project to happen for our community, for the safety, for the connectivity, for the accessibility. In the last 5 months, particularly paying attention to how much foot and pedestrian traffic there has been on Canton Street. You see teenagers riding without their helmets, riding their bikes. You see elderly folks walking. It is very dangerous, both for people of all ages and all abilities on the street, as well as for those driving in their cars. There is no shoulder in most of areas of Canton Street to even stand on. So I really urge this committee to move forward with this project. We've heard a lot about this is a scenic street. You know, I want to enjoy the scenic street. I know everybody in this room. I mean, I think that's a common theme, safety and scenic. And I think we will enjoy it much more, if we're able to actually walk or jog or run versus just sitting in our cars and driving through it. So I really am for all of the scenic, and let's make it even more scenic by seeing the character of the people. Somebody talked about the character of Canton Street. The character of any town is its people, along with the trees and the stone walls. So tremendous job on part of this committee to really lessen or have minimal impact to people's property, zero impact in terms of the right of way, but also minimal impact in how you're thinking about the buffers and stuff, and to replace or rebuild the stone walls and plant mature trees, have a landscape or have an arborist. So I really applaud the efforts of this team. I also wanted to add, we talked about infrastructure and utilities, and yes, there's the Dedham Water is going to take care of water. Sewage might, just be part of what the taxpayers have to pay across town. But from what I understand, the drainage infrastructure will be addressed here. And we've watched the news on what just happened with Hurricane Helene, there were so many areas that did not anticipate damage that were higher up. But across the nation, in many parts where there's old infrastructure for stormwater drainage, they had a much larger impact. So climate change is here, we know it. I'm not saying that this is going to impact immediately on because we don't really see a lot of hurricanes in our area, but this drainage infrastructure is something that will be addressed in this project from what I understand. So I think that's another benefit for this town. I really also wanted to highlight just one more thing.
One more thing, because your time's up.
Oh, my time's up? Okay. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I want to respect the time. Thank you again.
Thank you. Laura Issa, 250 Blue Hill.
Hello, good evening. My name is Laura Issa. I'm at 250 Blue Hill. I have lived there for about 5 years now, 6 years now. I am a runner, and I just overall enjoy really being outside. Canton Street has been a great place to run, but I will say that it is, as a runner on the road, always a little bit of a scenario when you're trying to move down Canton Street. In general, folks are fairly good about, paying attention and moving over for a runner or a walker or a jogger, but it does seem like there's like some sort of strange Murphy's Law that happens on Canton Street where you're always passing one of those islands when a car is coming, and it's just such a tight squeeze to have a pedestrian with a car and that island. So as this plan goes forward, I think it looks significantly better than it is today, and I fully support what's been presented so far. But I would just, as this moves into the next design phases, to continue to consider what some of those choke points might look like, and whether those traffic calming areas and islands can be changed up to really make it just a little bit easier for everybody. Additionally, I wasn't sure, this is more of a question, but were the speed limits going to be changed? Or evaluated? Is that part of the project, or has that not been considered?
I'm not sure we have an answer to that at this point.
Okay.
Or did you, Don?
Yeah, so the speed limits are regulated at the state level, and if a project like this were to be implemented where we have planned traffic calming improvements, it would make sense to do the speed study to evaluate the speed after the project has been in place, to understand how drivers' behavior has changed at that point, and then consider petitioning the state to reduce the speed limit at that point.
Okay, yeah, so that would be a good thing to kind of think through, and what makes sense here. And obviously a different piece of this, but something for the select board to consider as a next step. The neighborhoods that will be connected by this, including Blue Hill, perhaps evaluating the speed limits there. There's sections of Blue Hill that are a 45-mile-an-hour speed limit right now. So as you end up with more pedestrian traffic there, then that could certainly become a new hazard zone. So if that could be considered, that would be great. Thank you.
And is Daniel Issa also? Also 250 Blue Hill.
Good evening. Daniel Issa, 250 Blue Hill Drive. I first and foremost want to thank those who have worked so hard on this project. Compromise is very difficult. You're never going to please both sides, and the best that you can hope for is that both sides don't hate you at the end of it all. I am very much in support of this project, although even as a supporter, there are things that I disagree with. I'm not going to focus on that. I know I'm not going to change anyone's mind tonight. I don't think that's why people are here. But as we go forward, I would ask that you consider, I noticed in the plan that in part of the 8 feet, there was an option for an additional 2 feet of grassway or other. I would very strongly urge you to try to get that into the plan where it can be planted, trees, make a scenic road even more scenic, more beautiful, and sort of minimize the visual impact of just an 8-foot sidewalk. I know that the beauty of the area is such a big factor for so many people who live here, and I really think that that little extra bit, planting those extra trees, putting flowers along that path, I think that would go a long way as we talk about compromise to appease the side that is against the removal of trees, which I think we all are. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Alex Yell, 22 Hedgerow.
Hi, everybody. Alex Yell, 22 Hedgerow Lane. I had some prepared remarks, but a lot of folks mentioned a lot of the comments I wanted to make, so just want to add a few bits of color. So first of all, I commend those who spoke earlier on their ability to raise children safely without sidewalks on Canton Street, and that's wonderful. But we also drove folks in cars without seatbelts and airbags, but all the cars we have today have seatbelts and airbags. Plenty of examples of things we accomplished in the past that don't necessarily negate the need for safety improvement measures. So, secondly, I'm acutely aware of the financial needs of the town, and while the idea of a simple sidewalk paid for by us taxpayers sounds appealing, the likelihood of the town having funding to do so or having taxpayers who are willing to do so is quite nearly zero. So I just want to be clear on that. It sounds like a great idea, but we have important needs like a brand new fire station, many schools and towns in need of small repairs, large repairs, or full-on replacements that are obviously going to take priority over a sidewalk on our part of town. And then lastly, I think we can all agree that sidewalks on Canton Street are a safer alternative to what we have today, so safer than what we have today. And I hope we can agree that an additional 2.5 feet, which is roughly the length of a traffic cone, is an acceptable sacrifice for this highly beneficial project for all generations of our community now and in the future. So thank you.
Thank you. Morris, well, is it Ralph Morrison? Ryan, okay. 39 Spellman.
My friends in town will now call me Ralph, probably for the next few years. Thanks everybody on the board for your time. I just want to say I live on Spellman Road. Canton is dangerous, and sidewalk or not, people are always going to try to walk, bike, run, do whatever on it. I hate driving on it when there's somebody walking. I hate driving on it when there's a landscaper truck or delivery truck pulled over, and then everyone's piling up on either side, and then you've got someone who wants to walk or get by. We have friends opposite of Canton. We have friends down Canton. We don't walk to their house, either by ourselves or with our kids. It's too dangerous. A sidewalk would open up the community, allow us to have that freedom. And I would just say a crosswalk, every crosswalk you have the possibility of a car not stopping, but at least it gives our great police officers an opportunity to enforce the safety around that. I tell you, people will never stop if there isn't a crosswalk, right? So that's my time. Thanks.
Thank you. And just one other, come on up, but one other comment that I was going to make earlier, the crosswalks that we're seeing are raised crosswalks. And many people have made comments about the islands. The islands, according to recent traffic studies, have not been effective. In fact, traffic speeds since 2016 are slightly up, but they definitely are not down. This concept is replace and allow us to narrow the street and put a raised side of a crosswalk. That will slow traffic down better than anything, and then our concern that people won't stop. Well, at least they're going slower to begin with, and I failed to mention that. I'm sorry, I also have, is it Laura? Or?
Yeah, Laura. My husband's handwriting is terrible. Sorry. Laura Morrison, 39 Spellman Road. Thank you so much for the hard work getting here. This plan feels like a compromise built out of a lot of discussion. And it's honestly refreshing because these meetings have been hard to come to hear the division in the community that this project has caused. And I just thank you, especially to the moderator here. You've done a great job tonight. We've come a long way since that meeting in Downey. I will say some of the same things that other people have said, just shorten it up given the time. I don't feel safe on Canton Street. I don't let my kids on Canton Street. I don't like driving on Canton Street. I'm afraid of what happens to me if someone is jogging in the dark and I don't see them because I'm distracted by a kid in the back seat. Not only what happens to them, but what happens to kind of my life if that sort of traumatic incident happens. I also think the grant funding is really important here to think about. Someone said it before, I think it was Alex, right? 2.5 feet. 2.5 feet, if we can compromise on that, we can get this project funded. We can also get infrastructure funded. If we don't get that infrastructure funded, we as taxpayers are going to pay for that in the next several years in paving and improvements because they have to happen at some point.
And I'll just close by saying, you know, my 8-year-old has sort of become a political advocate, seeing all the signs on the street. And she said it pretty simply on the drive over here. She said, "Mom, tell the committee that we need a sidewalk because I want to see my friends." Thank you.
Thank you.
Steve, can I just make a comment too, just to clarify? Just the utility discussion. It is correct that the utilities will be improved. And, you know, Gary brought up the Dedham Water District would have plans to upgrade their services, their water mains, and their infrastructure itself. I don't know that if this project wasn't on the horizon, if that was something that the district had planned. Because typically when we do a paving project or you do a project of this magnitude, it triggers utility work to be looked at. It would just make sense. The other big, massive improvement that really hasn't been addressed, it was subtly addressed with respect to paving improvements, is that the road would be fully reclaimed, meaning pulverized and essentially built from the ground up again. And that would be paid for as part of this project, and it would be something that the town wouldn't have to absorb, which would be inevitable over the upcoming years. What we've done for a pavement preservation technique out there to what you see today, what everybody has been complimenting, oh, it's beautiful, it's fresh new pavement. It isn't typically what we do. I wouldn't call it a Band-Aid, but it's more or less a 7-year fix for us right now because we didn't know what the plan was going to be, if there was going to be a plan for this project to take place. So we didn't go all in. We actually had advised the select board of our plan of what we had done. I believe, Brendan, it was last summer that we paved Canton Street. So what we have out there, the expectancy of what's out there now is probably going to be about 7 years. But it's important to note as part of this project, again, you'll get a full depth reclamation, which should take you close to 20 years for the town not to have to worry about any pavement preservation whatsoever, other than crack sealing and minor attention. So.
Thank you. We're down to 4 names. I want to compliment the 4 people for sticking with us to be at the last of the list. So Colleen Fabrovitz, 60 Birch Tree Drive.
Hi, Colleen Feblowitz, 60 Birch Tree Drive. I don't think there's too much more to add. Everyone has had a lot to say today. I just wanted to add another voice in support of the project. I live on the other side of town. I'm fortunate enough to be off of High Street where I have accessible access to a sidewalk to go running to take my family, and I want that for my friends and neighbors on the other side of town as well. I also would love to someday see a sidewalk on Gay Street. I'm really happy about the funding that's been secured for this project. I hope that could be a model for something we could do on Gay Street in the future as well, and I'm worried if we didn't go through with this project, we would never be able to do that in the future. So that's all, but thank you very much for all the work with the team.
Thank you. And Sanjar Azar at 206 Forbes. Is it Nancy? I'm not sure. At 355 Weatherby? I guess they didn't stay to the end. And Chris Murphy at 39 Birch Street.
Does this mean I'm the last person? It's a lot of pressure. Thank you all for all your work. Appreciate it very much. Chris Murphy, 39 Birch Street. Been here for 9 years and have echoed a lot of the positive sentiments here. Very unsafe street for me, walking, riding my bike, running, and when we welcomed our 2 children into this world recently, definitely do not take them down the street. I look forward to the future where I can take them down the street, take them to Wegmans, take them to the train, see people on the street, go to the child care facilities that are located on the street. So thank you so much, and full support of the project. Thank you.
Thank you. Was there anyone who signed in that I missed? I didn't hear the name. Okay, well, step up.
Sorry, we missed you. That should be on the last page there.
Maybe there's another last page I don't have. Okay, go ahead.
So I think I'm not going to take too much time. I just want to bring up one thing. First of all, thank you everyone for doing this for us as a town. You did a great job from the last time to what you have done right now. It's a big difference. You have tried to bring both the parties together, but People have their own perspective and they won't change it. All I can tell you is that one thing I do not hear is that we need to prepare this town for the next generation. And most of the people who are in favor of this project are younger generation, and they're looking for this, so we should go ahead with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else have a comment? Is there anyone else who has a comment before we close public comment? Yes, sir.
A lot of 3 minutes or 30?
Let's start with 3.
All right. First of all, I've given you all both my handouts, so I'm sure that you have been reading them since I gave them to you. So I will continue. First of all, I think that's a terrible slide to be putting up in front of us, since having read the beta report, which I assume everybody on this committee has read, they have found that with an 85% percentile speeds have increased in most locations by 1 to 4 miles. Now, if speeds with the islands have increased 1 to 4 miles, what do you expect the speeds to increase on a straightaway like that? I guarantee you it's going to be more than 4 miles. Speeds on Everett Street and speeds on Forbes Road, however, have been consistent with the speed limits or less than the speed limits. And guess why? Because both those streets have speed bumps. And if you want to control the speed on this, instead of a little high rise on a crosswalk, put a speed bump in there. That should be a prime concern.
So
Now, another concern.
Not to interrupt, but just to address that, because that has been looked into, and just for everyone's knowledge, the fact that these are raised crosswalks are by design because of the volume on Canton Street. We are not allowed to have a speed bump. There's too much traffic on the street to qualify for a speed
You
bump.
know,
And
you
if-
just
and maybe
used-
I'll turn to our engineers to see if I'm stating that correctly. That's what we're told. So-
You just used a word that you shouldn't have used. The volume on Canton Street. What do you think is going to happen to the volume on Canton Street? Look what is happening on University Ave during commute hours. And picture that, which is pretty much there now, on Canton Street, and an emergency vehicle has to come in to collect some child that has been hit by a car on Canton Street. They ain't going to get there. And then we'll see that the emotions that have been exhibited here tonight, those people are going to be sorry. We want to minimize the traffic on Canton Street, and we want to minimize the speed. And speaking of that, what is the speed limit proposed with this new outline?
As was said earlier, it's not at that point in the process.
Well, right now it's 35, but it's 30 on other streets in town. Have you read, just out of curiosity, by the way, how many people on this committee has read the beta report?
I think
Oh, we got a few. Good. Then you understand what I'm talking about. Have you all read the letter from the Scenic America? Nobody? Well, a few. I thought it was well written, and their statements, bullets were, Canton Street is designed as a scenic road by the town. They are recommended preserve the iconic trees that line Canton Street. Speaking of iconic trees, have you looked at Downey Street and the trees they put in there? Have you, Mr. Chairman?
I've looked at the entire neighborhood, including Downey Street.
And what do you think of those trees they put there?
I'm not into, we're out of time.
No, I'm bringing this up because there's no guarantee that if this project goes through, that similar trees, maybe another foot higher, would end up on Canton Street, and it's really a disgrace.
So
Okay,
all I can tell
I
you
beat
is
that
that
one.
this project will have a landscape architect that is looking at the sole purpose is to do a very proper repositioning of landscaping, and especially replacing of trees. If you were at our last session, you heard that it's typical to not do as mature trees as we're talking about. We're looking to even put 20-foot trees where we can. So there's no comparison. This is a totally different project. The people involved with this project are here to do everything we can to preserve the landscape we have. So I'm not here to debate you. I wanted to hear, but...
No, I'm not going to debate you.
But our time is up. I wanted to give you an opportunity. Do you have any other quick comments you want to add? We are really running out of time.
My last comment per the Scenic America letter. This project would degrade the character and negatively impact the historical features. And I think that's very important. Thank you for the additional time.
Thank you.
And as you know, I'm against the project.
You had promised me 2 minutes.
Go ahead.
Okay. Short-term gain, long-term shame. This project is a traffic corridor. The only reason it's funded by the state is they want to push high volume of traffic over Canton Street. They have a problem. The street is being sold down the river for $21 million. There should be a cul-de-sac or a turnaround down at the end of Canton Street that would stop all the traffic, would mitigate all the concerns about the mothers and the millennials who have children and who have dogs or like to jog, as you say. There's plenty of options for these folks for recreation in the town. There's plenty of walking paths, plenty of bicycle paths, and a scenic way is a distinctive asset of the community. You're trashing it for the state's purposes. The people are delusional. I hate to say the millennials with their cell phone narratives, they're all saying, they repeat the same thing 25 times here, but that's a false narrative. It's a word salad. The reality is the state is going to jam as much traffic down Canton Street as they can. That's the only reason they're giving you the money. They've got the slip lane, they've got a traffic problem. The traffic could be diverted through Norwood if you put a cul-de-sac at the end of that street. If you really cared about safety and about the residents. Now, unfortunately, all the seniors like myself, they have to go home for milk and cookies at 9 o'clock, so they all left their room. They're not here to clap, but that's okay. They'll maybe see the video. This money, you could put a bluestone walking path along the street at a very low cost. And you put a cul-de-sac in. The town of Canton has money in DPW to do a proper job of really mitigating traffic and creating safety for families. That's not what this is about. When they talk about the future, I know what the future is. The state not only wants traffic shooting up Canton Street as a traffic corridor, they want utilities to build all the 1,500 or 2,000 new housing units for migrants down at University Station. That's what this is about. And these people who think they're going to have a nice family neighborhood, boy, are you going to be surprised when you get your traffic corridor, because you're also going to get 2,000 new housing units you're not going to want. And you're not going to want to walk your kids down there either.
So, sir, the time is up. And
So the point being, a number of communities like the town of Norfolk, like other communities, have prevented that kind of development by not allowing the redevelopment and the extension of sewer and the proper utilities to provide that expansive housing. And it's disingenuous by a planning board or a town committee to really have a back agenda of what's really going on in the big boy picture and have people worrying about the trees and about the sidewalk and about safety on the street for a bicycle. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I want to thank everyone. Are there any quick comments from the working group?
Thank you for moderating.
Thank you. And with that, we'll have to get back to you as far as our next meeting. I said we're going to get back to everyone about our next meeting. We might have to look for a different date altogether, it sounds like, but we'll deal with that.
Can I just ask a quick
Sure.
Laura Van Wagen, 181 Canton Street. Can you just tell us the process going forward now with it's going to take place? I mean, you said you're going to meet on the 22nd and the 23rd after you got.
So the
input,
process
so it
now
seems
is.
kind of, both sides, hasn't changed.
Right. So the process now is to review the comments of tonight, which will be done. A lot of notes were taken, but also it's on video. Come back to the committee to see if there's any feedback or other changes. But our immediate goal is to get to the point to make a recommendation back to the select board as to whether they should move forward with a project or not.
And so who makes that decision?
The select board. We will have, we will have
Are
a.
you saying all of you guys
So
here?
this working group will have, we'll see if there's a consensus. But our mission was to make revisions to a plan and hand it back to the select board.
With the recommendation?
Well, the recommendations that we're handing back will be whatever the plan is at that point. So, in other words, if we were to vote today and had a consensus, a majority said we should send this back to the select board, then this is the plan that would go back. To answer, I think I'm answering your question directly.
I guess I just want to see.
So then the select board.
I mean, is it possible as a group that you decide that we're not going to go forward with it? You don't agree with the plan? I mean, is that possible, or?
Well, anything's, I don't want to.
No,
I don't want to guess what's going to happen.
But that's possible. Is that possible?
Do you want to say something?
Is that possible?
I just wanted to clarify that this group was set up to provide input into the redesign that the select board voted they wanted to see. So all of this work that we've been doing since the beginning of the year has been to provide that input into a redesign. So we started working from the 25% plan we all saw last fall, and we've gotten to this point with the benefit of input. So I think the plan is we'll have another meeting as a working group. We'll see where we are, and then we'll be in a position, the working group will be in a position to take that feedback to the select board, and then the redesign process will then go forward.
So that it sounds like that the redesign is going forward.
That was already voted on, yes, and this whole process is to inform the redesign.
I guess I'm confused a little bit. Is this
He's
just?
speaking to the mic.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm still confused as to the process.
Sure. So
I know the redesign. I've seen the pictures. So that's what you're referring to as the redesign?
So last fall, the select board voted to do a redesign of this project.
Correct.
Based on the feedback we got from the state, which
Right.
was they were open to waivers that we didn't know about when the first 25% plan was done. Well, we didn't know about it because they didn't exist, right? And then
Right.
the state said, well, we're going to allow for waivers on this, and you can think about doing it another way. So the select board voted, we want to see a redesign, keeping in mind all of those waivers that the state is now, with the new administration, open to.
Right.
But we said, before we do that, people like Gary and Steve and many of you said, wait a minute, we want to have a public process around that. We want to give you input before you just do a redesign. So that's what this whole process has been over these last 9+ months, to get input into the redesign so that this body, the Canton Street Working Group, can go back to the select board and say, here is our input. Perhaps we will have a consensus around it. That's what we need to discuss as a group at our next meeting. Do we have consensus on what we think as a group should go into that redesign? And then that will be taken to the select board, and then we will ask our engineers to do the redesign.
So I guess what I'm hearing is that this redesign project is going forward no matter what, with the input.
The plan was always to do a redesign. That's what was voted last fall.
So that the sidewalk or the 8-foot, what the state is going to pay for, is going through. one way or another. That's what I'm
I think
kinda
there are other
hearing.
steps. We still have to finish the redesign work, and that
Right.
redesign, as I at least see it, should come back to this group when we get a redesign, so that this group, which consists of residents on the street, can give further input, excuse me.
I guess I'm, you know, I guess I'm very confused and with this process, because I kind of feel that from what I've been hearing at all the meetings, there are a lot of people that disagree with going forward with it. But what I'm hearing, it sounds like from, and it's maybe my misunderstanding, that it is going forward. And the input that people have, yeah, it kind of is a little irrelevant. I don't want to say that. You listened to us, so I guess we were heard as a public.
The input that we've gotten from residents have shaped this from what it was.
Oh, I understand that. I've been in the process. I understand that. But I think even along with that, there's been a lot of opposition to it.
For sure. And we're going to digest and talk about all this input that we've gotten tonight at our next meeting. We had originally talked about having a discussion at the end of this meeting tonight, and then we thought, you know what, it's going to be late. We don't want to rush this. We want to make sure people have time to digest what they've heard. I've taken copious notes. I'm sure other people have. And we want to be able to think about everything that people have said tonight.
So, okay, I mean, I understand, but I guess I have a different feeling from this whole process right now of what's going on. Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, Selectwoman, I want to make sure I understand what's going on.
Yes, sir.
My feeling is that this group sitting around this table with residents.
Can you come to the microphone?
You can't hear me?
Well, we need you recorded.
I have hearing aids too. My feeling is, and I felt this way before I ever came to tonight's meeting, is that a decision has already been made by this group to recommend to the Board of Select people that this project continue with some modifications which this group, based on, inputs from the residents, give you to make any modifications, is going through. Have I concluded correctly that this committee is going to recommend to the Board of Selectmen or select people that this project proceed? Am I correct?
Well, we haven't had that discussion yet,
Let's
so
take
I
a-
can't answer that question,
Can we
Mr. Elliott.
take a preliminary polling of the residents that are sitting on here?
We're not going to do that tonight for the reason I said before. We originally thought we would have a discussion, but it's now, I don't know, 9:30, and
It's past my bedtime, I know.
and mine too. And so we want to hold off on having that discussion in fairness, because we've heard a lot tonight and it's given us a lot to think about. People have raised issues, and we want to come back after everybody's had a chance to digest what we've heard and then have a discussion.
Okay, just for the record, my background is engineering, and I'm registered PE in the state. Thank you.
sir.
Good night.
Can I just ask one thing? Where's the
Please come to the mic if you're going to.
Where's the link to see this? Because I know I'm at Everett and Canton, and I know that you guys are doing something there, and the last meeting.
It's on our website.
Okay, do we have the link up? Because I somehow can't find it anymore.
We'll send it. We'll find it and send it.
We'll be happy to
Can you
send
do
it.
it
We'll
in
get
the
it for
thing?
you. We'll get
Okay,
it for you, yeah.
just because you'd like to see, and
We'll get
this
it for
isn't
you.
the whole, the
You
thing,
can-
so
you
maybe
wanna-
next meeting, we can have the plans out, that way people can come look to actually see, because I know all the lines, it doesn't really show what's what, so that way people can see a little bit better. Thank you.
Thank you. I feel I do need to make a couple of comments, and then we're going to close it. So the first is, and I don't want to get into a debate, but when comments are made that I believe are totally wrong, I feel an obligation to correct the record. There is no state initiative involved here. We have met with the state. We have met with everybody. I have heard all these comments. I have researched them personally. For the record, this is a town project, period. There is no plan on any of all these ancillary things other than to do what you see here. And this plan is designed to reduce traffic, not increase traffic, reduce speed, not increase speed. And if it isn't doing that, then we shouldn't support it. But it is not to create a thoroughfare or any of these other connections, and it's just not fact. So I want to correct that in a firm way. Secondly, and I don't want to speak for our select board, but I believe in response to the question that the select board is, what I understand, is they feel that if there is not a project that meets all the requirements that they set up, at that point, they're going to say stop. But they believe there is a project, and if I say anything wrong, she'll nudge me or kick me or something. But it's my understanding that they believe there is they understand the concerns and they want to move forward to see if they can address them at a level that allows a project to go forward. So I don't think it's fair to say it's a fait accompli, but I do think, and I have said at the beginning of every meeting, we are not a granting authority, we are only here to advise on the revision of the plan. I have said that consistently and clearly. I'm sorry if people misunderstood it, but I want it for the record. I have been very consistent. I have said it at the beginning of every meeting. With that, I will take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'll take the ayes. Any opposed? Any abstentions? We are adjourned at 9:20. Thank you.